Okay, Renee, it's down to you. We're now streaming live. Have a great day. Hope you lot have all a great conversation. I'm here in the background if anyone needs me, so just shout for a kill. Bye.
Cool. Thanks, Akil. Before I get started quickly, Akil, do you just want to introduce yourself quickly? And then I can get started with introducing myself and then the rest of the panel.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Akil. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Akil. I'm the director of M&C Saatchi Saturday School. We're here to teach the community the basics of business, and it seems like we're here to do this around the world, and that's a big pride of mine. We started this last year, and Moray came to help in maybe like October, and we taught about 3,000 people under this brand, and I think that's amazing. We've taught people stuff from business planning to digital marketing to well-being at work to how to manage their finances effectively. And ever since Corona, we've been here to support the community get back on their feet. Like, what do you do next when Corona hit? How do you run a creative business? How do you sell stuff that you don't even know what you're making the first time? I realized a lot of these are blocks that could short you up, that could stop you, that could just stand in the way of you communicating and doing your best work. And I don't think that's necessary. So that's why we're having the conversation. I've got people here that I really admire, like sincerely, deeply. Like I've watched these people work for years, and so I can only like talk to the testament of everything that they do, and I can only hope that you lot learn as much as I have from them. Well, obviously, maybe not in this short time, but I hope you get to learn a lot, and get to experience them, and get to like ignite your own minds and imaginations for how you might overcome or go around some of the challenges that you might be facing in business. There's going to be loads of opportunities to ask questions. If you want to ask questions in the comments, feel free to ask questions in the comments. If you want to, and there's going to be a big discussion at the end. So yeah, that's how it's going to be. What we're going to do is just for visibility, we're going to ask everyone to turn off their mic, turn off their camera, unless you're a speaker. So it just gives other people a chance to really see and hear, and just to stop the background noise. So yeah, we're going to ask you to do that, please. And have a great day. Like, this should be amazing. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. Let's enjoy.
Thank you, Akil. Hi, everyone. So I'm Renee Davis. Where do I even start? So my affiliation to M&C Saatchi Saturday School is that my organization, Out the Box, does their community management. So we'll do things like getting amazing people like you guys into the space, just boosting the pipeline of young creatives who are eager to learn and scale their businesses, and even just to come up with something amazing to solve problems in their communities. And then I'm also a journalist, as well as communications manager. So I just kind of work a lot in the media space. So I'm really looking forward to interviewing Moray and Ibrahim today about running creative business. And we have three main questions. And I want to kind of frame the chat around those questions, and then kind of just have like just a casual chat about what it really takes to do this, because I think a lot of us are used to seeing, you know, the glitz and the glamour of it all, and we really don't know like the grit that goes into it and the hustle that goes on behind the scenes. So I'm just looking forward to just some honest, transparent talks today, and also looking forward to the questions that come out of this and the discussions that we have later on. So I'll let Moray and Ibrahim introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, and then we can go straight into the questions. So Moray, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, I'm Moray MacLennan. I'm the worldwide CEO of M&C Saatchi, and I'm the old guy on the call. But I started in advertising. I've got a remarkably boring CV, actually. I joined Saatchi in the early 80s, mid 80s. I then left Saatchi in 95 to help start. I became managing director there, actually. That's the one in Charlotte Street, to the guy I was talking earlier. We left there and started up M&C Saatchi, independent company, 25 years ago, and we're still here just about.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's Ibrahim Kamara, and I'm co-founder and CEO of a youth media platform called Go Up. Some of you may know it as the world's first video magazine, and that's what we started with. But now we've grown into a youth media brand that's dedicated to discovering, showcasing, but also nurturing emerging diverse creatives. And we do that through our magazine, our website. We own a couple creative studios, and we have an agency strand where we work with brands who want to reach young and underrepresented audiences.
Amazing, amazing. So it's like two very different spaces, but they're still obviously within the creative industries. And I'm sure a lot of people here either work in the creative industries or wanting to start something within that space. And it's not, again, like I said earlier, it's not easy. So what did you tell yourself to commit to the long haul of running a creative business? Ibrahim, I'll start with you.
I think for me, there was no plan B. That was my motivation. I think when I came out of university, I worked at Tesco for like 4 to 5 months. And then I kind of just left with not like much savings or anything. I just said, I'm gonna risk it all for this. So that kind of was the motivator. I didn't have another option to go back to. It was either make this work or make it work kind of thing. So yeah, that was my driver.
Moray, and I'll put that question to you.
You know, it's probably the same for many of us, actually, unless you're one of these people who has that vocation that I want to do this thing. I've wanted to do it since I was 5. But similar in some ways to Ibrahim, you know, I came out of college and I thought I'd go and train and be a lawyer. And then I found out you didn't get paid to do that. You had to pay. And I didn't want to do that. So I thought I didn't have any particular skills. You know what it's like sometimes if you go into the creative industries, as I did, you know, I wasn't a talented musician or artist or writer. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do that I think I will enjoy to make money? You know, and I was very clear, as we probably all are, at the age of 18, I was very clear I was going to be having to earn a living for the rest of my life. And here I am, still on Saturday, doing that. And on Sunday, I will be in again tomorrow. And you know what it's like. It was, I only read the other day, it was Alex Ferguson. I didn't need Alex Ferguson to tell me this, but nevertheless, it's always good to quote these people. And you know, he said, if you work hard every day of your life, you will be successful. I'm not saying it's right to work hard every day of your life, or you should work hard every day of your life, but he's probably right. If you work really hard, you probably will be successful. And that was really it for me. It wasn't so much about the creative industries. I suppose Saatchi & Saatchi at the time was glamorous and hitting the headlines, and I was joining this extraordinary company that was always being talked about. And I didn't really commit to it for the rest of my life. Strange, really, because I have been here for the whole of my life, pretty much in the Saatchi thing as it happens. As it's progressed, and obviously when you start out, as I tell my kids now, you know, you don't start at the top, you start at the bottom. You start off doing the photocopying, empty the bins. That's the way it works. But you know, as I've worked my way through, I think now what I like about, and it's not quite running my own business, but because it's a public company, but we have a lot of freedom. I like the freedom and control of doing my thing. And you know, when I deal with entrepreneurs, because that's really our business, is we don't buy businesses. We do occasionally. We start up businesses with talent. So it's almost like a talent spotting agency. And then we back those people. And so I think I know what some creative people want. And that is freedom. You know, they want the freedom and control of their own lives. More, actually, do you know what? More than money, I think, as a motivation. And so that's become really important to me now. I don't think I could go back. I don't think I could go back to doing now everyone's got a client and a boss ultimately, okay? So no one has complete freedom and control. But I couldn't go back just to being a cog in a big company, not having that freedom. I think I've gone off piste on your question actually. But
you haven't, but you've kind of given me an opening to kind of ask another question, which I think will apply definitely to both of you. So you mentioned something about what you do now is that you start businesses, you look for talent and you look for people. What are the key things that you look for people that are wanting to start creative businesses? Like, what is that ingredient that they carry?
Yeah, it's a good and difficult question to answer for me anyway. And I have got it wrong at least as many times as I've got it right, because it's not good enough to be in most of the sectors that we're in. Let's say take advertising in New York. You want to start an agency in New York. There are 3,000 advertising agencies just in Manhattan. That's before you get into Brooklyn. So it's not enough to be good. You've got to get something exceptional, and finding that gem and finding that good person, they're really difficult to unearth, because one thing I've learned is good people die in a bad culture. And you can have a real star, but they're just working somewhere which isn't right for them. Yeah. And the opposite is also true. So that's really difficult. I think you sometimes it's a personal bond that you meet them and you just find them compelling and trustworthy. But trust and and then there's the raw talent as well. Are they just really good at what they do? But it's not, I don't think there's a magic formula, and commitment. You need 100% commitment, because everyone we started a business with, if you start a business, you think it's going to be fantastic. Otherwise, why are you going to start it? You're not going to start and think, oh, it might be quite good. You're going to think it's going to be fantastic, and you think you're going to succeed quickly, and you won't. That's my learning. You won't, okay? You won't succeed quickly. There will be some exceptions on this call, and you can give me exceptions to prove that rule. But every single business we've started that is successful or very successful, it's taken longer than the people thought. Because they think we're going to go straight in there, we're going to kill it, we're going to be the best. And yeah, they have become the best, some of them, but it's taken them 5 years, not 1 year. And their business plans were all making money in year one. I never listened to their business plan. I always discount 2 years when I put figures into the PLC, because they're natural born optimists, the people who want to start the business, and they're going to get knocked back, and it will take longer. I mean, some have even said, even the most successful ones, if I knew it was going to be this hard, I'd never have done it. They don't mean it. They don't mean that. All they're really saying is, you've really got to expect to be knocked down. We had a quick chat earlier, and there is that famous Mandela quote about, don't judge me by my success, judge me by my failures and how many times I got up off the floor. And you will be hit. I mean, we've been hit as a company 2 or 3 times, I guess, hard, because we're high profile, we're high influence. And when you do well, people they just do. They do love seeing you get knocked down and knocked off your pedestal. And it will happen. I'll tell you what, no one on this call is not going to be, your career is not going to just be a straight line of success. You know that. It's going to go bad from time to time. It is going to go badly wrong. We lost our biggest account at one point. Everyone was going, oh, that'll teach them. And you knew that was going to define you. Right now, and it'll be in the press probably tomorrow, but right now, we've had a lot of hits recently. Well, there's 1 or 2 things you can do. You can either curl up into a ball, or you lean into it and you hit back hard, and it makes you really determined. And if you don't have that resilience at the beginning, and someone doesn't have that resilience, they will give up and fail at some point.
Yeah, thank you. And I like the fact that you said that you leaned in, because you can either curl up and just think, forget it, I give up, I'm going to let it go, or you lean in and you learn and you grab lessons and gems from the failures. And Ibrahim, I know you speak a lot on the beginning stages and how for you failure was not an option, and you're very transparent on social media just about how hard the beginning was. Can you kind of speak on how you've leaned into some of the difficult times that you may have faced, because you're still in the early stages of what you guys have done amazingly well, so it'd be good to hear.
I think the main way we've leaned in is just our perspective on things. I think even when we were having hard times, we always saw the hard times as part of a longer vision. So my short term for things was always 5 years, and my long term is like 10 years plus. So when something we would have like a bad year, is like, what's the proportion of 1 year in a 5 year journey? It's the same way I've seen like with the same thing I've seen with let's say Corona and this like period was 3 months in a 5 year journey. If it's, do you get what I'm saying? So we've always had a very strong perspective on the time frame that this stuff is going to happen in, and understanding that there's going to be ups and downs during that time, and as long as you can get through those downs, you'll be able to like reap the benefits of the ups. So yeah, I think that's how we managed to like lean in properly. Because yeah, like there was a time where I was making like, I was working in my dad's shop. My dad has like an internet cafe, so in Peckham, and for like the first 2 years after I left my job at Tesco, I was working from there with my business partner. My dad was giving me like £20 a week at max, and that's what I was surviving on for like a long period of time, until we got our first client, which was Nike, which came at some random time. But if we weren't seeing the long-term vision during the time where we was making basically like £20 a week and weren't fighting through that, we probably wouldn't have got to the stage where we're attracting those type of clients. So yeah, I think the long-term vision and believing in yourself through those hard times is like really important.
And also, just to pick up on that, something you said, Ibrahim, on the Nike thing. The great thing is you can be on the floor, and you can have lost 10 pitches in a row, and then one comes through, and that moment, you know, so they can just change. It can change so quickly, and then suddenly you won, and then suddenly you've got momentum, and then you've got another one, and then it all happens. And it's one of the great, I mean, all creative businesses are slightly different, but in our business, it's one of the great things, that hope that it can change incredibly quickly.
There's like one tipping point that I think everyone in their journey has a tipping point where it just starts making sense, where before that tipping point is like, you think things aren't making sense, but you never know who's watching you during that time where you think it doesn't make sense. And then once you hit that tipping point, and then everything that you've done over the last period of time just comes together, and it just creates like a snowball effect. So I think it's that whole thing of like just going through the hard parts and understanding that it might take longer than you expected it, but it will happen when it's right.
And I think there's something to be said there about not kind of beating yourself up, because I think we kind of take things personally and we think it's me, it's my fault, I didn't do this, I should have done that. And then when that one thing does come through, you realize, okay, it was just timing. So I have another kind of question about like the work itself. Like, how do you guys kind of sell creative work before it's been made? So how do you know, you might be pitching and you're like, we haven't even done most of the work yet, but this is the idea that we have. How do you make sure that that kind of gets through?
I think ours is a bit different because we're a publisher first, not an agency. Our way of selling is literally us doing what we do every day, and brands seeing what we do and wanting to get involved, and basically aligning their business strategies with what we do and asking how we can integrate. So we've never actually ever pitched. For any of the brands that we've worked with, we've never pitched. It's always been inbound, but that's literally always been just because of the work we put out. So our strategy is literally just putting out great work all the time, putting out excellent work, and basically making it the most authentic and making it the most true to us and involving the community that we're trying to serve. That's like our foundation, and that foundation has brought in the clients and brought in brands wanting to work with us. So that's how we've done it.
And how does your planning process, sorry.
I was only going to agree.
How does your planning process usually kind of work in terms of like creating the work?
Yeah, so when we get hit with a brief, what we usually do, now we've got a team, it's like we get a brief, we discuss the brief as a team. We have a small team, there's like 6 of us. So we talk about the brief, basically pitch it back to the client. The client says which idea they like, and then we think about outside people in our community who we can bring in on the project, like freelancers and different creatives who we can bring onto the project to make it much more impactful. And then, yeah, we just do it. So a lot of the time it's literally just brainstorming an idea, seeing if the client likes it. If they like it, we make it happen. Simple as, yeah.
Moray, how about you?
I certainly, the big truth in what Ibrahim said is so important, is that judge me by my work. You know, you can see what I do, and that's what you're buying, is my talent. So I completely agree with that. In our business, some people say, you know, a great idea will sell itself, and I think that's not true. It may be true if you're really lucky and you've got the right client, but often it's not true. I was lucky, and this isn't false modesty, I was genuinely lucky early on in my career to work with people who were very good when I was very young, and they gave me a break, and I got the credit for their work to some extent. The first one, because when you were a kid, so you do the small stuff, and you do the charity work because they didn't pay you anything, and that was great because you'd get to deal with the best work. We did a thing for the Samaritans. This guy wrote it, and you can probably get it on YouTube and look at it now. It's old, you know, we're talking decades old, but nevertheless, it's Pink Floyd. Is there anybody out there? You may or may not know the track, but and it's just a screen with a guy's face behind it of a rubber ski, and he's pushing through it, screaming. With the track, is there anybody out there? And it says, yes, the Samaritans. It won gold this, gold the other, best commercial, and it stands the test of time. And so, and that, do you know what that one? It sold itself. But more often than not, I think it's what's people buy the person, don't they? I mean, and we all do that. And if you trust the person, you have that personal relationship, then you buy it. There's very little you can say. We always aimed when we started M&C Saatchi, we thought our thinking would be so tight and so good and better than anyone else's, and more compelling, so that at the end of when we stop speaking, the only answer can be the work that we're about to show you. And getting that thinking really, really tight up front, and so that they would buy you and your thinking, because usually that's the most important. Often you don't have time to build up the trust. Once you have trust, it's so much easier, isn't it? And as I said, people really buy the person. There's very, when I show a client some work, it's not a dangerous game, but I mean it's a less good game to be able to just, what can you say just before that's going to make any difference to whether they like it or not? You know, because you can't, you show them the work and they say, I hate it. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Well, I'm beginning to hate you now as well. So you know, there's very little you can say at the last minute that is going to change how someone reacts to something, I think. So I think the hard work is always done before, through relationships, the quality of your work, or the quality of your thinking, and so that it's relentless and more. I mean, nowadays people would say it's slightly changed game now, because of course, in an era of programmatic buying, testing, content creation and distribution, it is a slightly different iterative game that you can play, and one does play, but there's still the judgment involved, of course.
Definitely. So what would you say? Sorry.
That's all right. No, I was reading one of the chats.
Oh, okay, cool. So what would you kind of say was like a big moment for you guys where you just thought, wow, like as much as this thing has been really hard for us, I know Ibrahim, you spoke about Nike. Have there been any other moments where you've realized, okay, this is just how this work is, and this is what it takes to really make it happen?
To be honest, I don't even feel that yet. If I'm honest, I feel like we still got better to do. That's just my plain answer. I feel like we've done some good stuff in that, but I don't feel like, I still feel like we got foundations to lay. Yeah, so I don't have a direct answer for that yet.
Yeah, sorry, just give me the question again, Renee. What was it?
No, I was saying, like, what was kind of like the moment that you got to before your career trajectory kind of just went upwards? I know Ibrahim spoke about Nike, but what was it for you, especially in the early days when you left Saatchi and Saatchi to start M&C Saatchi? Well,
yeah, that was a moment. I suppose I had two. I had one really low moment. I was running our most prestigious account, I suppose, the British Airways account, and it went really wrong. I mean, it really, really went wrong. We made the worst commercial ever. It almost broke the agency, and I was responsible for all of that. And I think coming through that, not being fired, and being able to rebuild from there was a sort of critical moment, because it really was. It was hideous. It was, well, you know, we all have those times in our life where we had the director throwing bins at the client. We had him call. I mean, stuff you just wouldn't believe. So a lot of it caught on film as well.
Wow.
It was when the director called the client a fucking fascist on film. That was not a great moment. And that was then it all went downhill from there. And to come through that and decide, and we all have those times where you think, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I want to do something else. But coming through that was a do or die moment. And then I suppose starting M&C Saatchi, when I had a good career going at Saatchi and Saatchi, I had security, I had safety. I had a big company behind me, I suppose. And I remember getting got a call from Moray Saatchi. He said, so you're going to come and join us in this thing we're starting? And I said, well, I really don't know. I've got a job here and I owe these people more than I owe you because they work for me. And I'm going to stand up tonight and tell them that we're going to be fine, and you're the enemy. And if I do that, as soon as I do that, then I'm staying. So I don't know really. And he said, I completely understand that, which is where when we finish this conversation, you need to put down the phone, walk out of your office, and never go back. And he put down the phone.
Wow.
And so that was one of them when you think. And I sort of got up out of my chair and I walked across the thing, and my PA said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going out. She said, are you going to, it was a bit like Captain Oates in the Antarctic. He said, are you going to be long? And I said, she said, I'm going to be a really long time. And I walked out and didn't go back. That was a sort of real door down. I still don't quite know why I did that. It was just I just walked out and it wasn't really thinking. And I guess, again, all of us make irrational judgment sometimes. You just do something and then cross your fingers and hope for the best. Maybe it was some sort of instinct. I do remember turning up to his door 20 minutes later in London, knocked on the door, and I said, oh, okay then, I'm here. I said, what about all that business that we have? And he said, I wasn't completely honest with you. In what respect? We don't have any business. So there I was, I'd walked out of my job, biggest agency in the UK, to start a company with absolutely nothing. So that was a moment, and in some ways it's quite out of character. I don't think I'm a particularly brave or entrepreneurial businessman, but I've learned some of those things.
Wow, that's crazy to me anyway. What's one thing that the both of you wish you knew before entering this industry and this business? What's one thing that you thought, nobody told me this, why didn't anybody tell me?
I wish I knew I was going to do well. Actually, I don't wish I knew I was going to do well, because the fear thing keeps you going, doesn't it? I think I'd say something around. I think in my job, often you manage clients, and I think you can be more honest more often. So just tell people what you really think and what you really think is right, rather than trying to manage that in some way. And I think I've learned that over the time, is actually just say what you think is the truth. I mean, it's easier when you're more senior in a company, but it's more difficult when you're less secure. Yeah, probably something around there.
Cool.
I think if it was me, I'd probably say chase value earlier rather than money, because I think when we first started, we were chasing the financial aspect of this stuff, and we thought we was going to be like millionaires like straight away. So, but I think the minute we made that switch of like chasing value and making sure that we're bringing like value to the world, that's like when a lot of things started changing for us. So yeah, I would say, yeah, chase the value before the money.
And also talent as well. The other thing that I've learned here rather than before was take your time over hiring, because when you're one person, your next hiring is do or die. If it's right, you'll do really, if you have 5 great people, you'll do really well. If you have 4 quite good people, you probably won't. And taking the time to get that right. And we put in a lot of effort. We always used to have a subs bench, we would call it, of 11 people who we would want to hire when we had the money to do it. And it's a lot of time and effort, isn't it? It's every night, every evening, every morning, you're having to see someone, but it pays off. And we stopped doing that after a while, and you pay for that, I think.
Cool, thank you. Question. I feel like we're just in such a different time now, and the world has changed. The world is continuing to change quicker than we think. What is the future of creative business? Where do you see this all going?
I'll say this from a obviously, like I said, we're relatively new in this kind of space. But all in all, I think all businesses are somewhat creative. You've got to solve some sort of problem. That's the way you provide value in it. So I think the world's going to be changing the same way it's been changing. It's probably just happening at a faster rate. And as businesses, we've just got to learn to adapt with the times. And if you don't adapt, you might fall to losing in these times. But if you're easily adaptable and lean, you should be able to get through these tough times. And yeah, I think this is no different to years. Like every decade, there will be some challenge at some point in your journey, kind of thing. So I think it's just weathering the storm. So I don't think it's going to change in any way. It's just, yeah, it's happening, and you just got to take it, innit? That's how I perceive it.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very specific place right now, and it's an annoying cliche to say it's an opportunity. I find it a bit insulting almost, and insensitive to say that. But we've had 2 big problems really in the last 12 months. The first was we had some accounting misstatements which were very publicly covered. We then had a boardroom bust up, which was very publicly covered. There was then more bad news, which was very publicly covered. That was all just that was the 6 months pre-COVID. Then COVID hit. So those 2, which has completely changed our business. Where we have a big sports and entertainment arm. There's no sports and entertainment, as we all know. So that's gone to 0. And that's a reasonably big piece of our business. So there's been a lot of challenges, and our business has changed dramatically, together with consumers and customers changing how we do business. Yeah. Perhaps there's 2 major strands I've seen externally. Speed is just off the scale now, and it's not going to change. Clients aren't going to turn around and say, you can go back to doing everything a bit slower again. I think speed is with us for good, and that's going to really affect business. Being able to react, and agility, I suppose, is really important. And the other thing is internally is, and some of this is to do with social injustice, Black Lives Matter, all of that side of things. I think also people sitting at home and considering the world and their life and society and what's important and what they want to do. Do they really want to turn up to an office every day, commuting for 3 hours? So I think that whole, what's your, I know it's well-trodden ground, but in terms of what's your purpose, are you a purposeful company? And are your values the right values, and the values that I want to be associated with in my life? So I think that, and I know it sounds quite prosaic to say speed, but I think speed and agility is a major thing coming out of this. And so we are taking this moment for both of those reasons. So fundamentally look at our business and ask all those difficult questions about ourselves. And writing, you know, I can say this because we've put it on the record already. You know, we are going to write a future strategy. We're in the process of doing that, which is, you've got to see it as an opportunity to do something new and different and better and change things, which does bring its problems, and you will need to break some eggs, and it'll create some difficulties, but it is also a liberating process to go through, to think, okay, we have to, and we can relook at every aspect of our business, given what's going on in our past and in society, and re-engineer, restructure, refocus, look at a 5-year plan. And I think it's been a good thing, and I'm not just saying that. I think it's been a good thing for us.
So I have a question about money. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, she asked the money question. How do you make sure that you're not, I think it's two separate, because I know Saatchi will be a bit different, but Ibrahim, like, how do you make sure that you're not underselling your work and who you guys are and what you do? And when that's not being served at the table, when do you know to walk away?
Yeah, I think, again, just transparency. I think it's all like learning experience kind of thing. When we first started, even when we got that first Nike project, we didn't get how much we were meant to get, but obviously we got to say we've worked with them kind of thing. And I think the more you show value, the more your worth goes up kind of thing. So for us, the conversations used to be, this is how much we have, take or leave it kind of thing. And then as we got bigger, the conversations changed to what's the budget. And then when we started being asked what's the budget, we first started with like just going higher than the last project. Because we like basically done this from the ground up, we knew how to do a lot with little. So when we was taking money in, we would just be like, oh yeah, let's just do more than what we charged last time. But now we're at a stage where we have access to other people who work within this industry, and we kind of know what the market rates for certain things are. So yeah, we're able to basically align ourselves with those market rates for certain projects, and then yeah, just go along with that. But yeah, we had to go through. We've gone from people telling us there was no budget to working with us, but they would want us to work with them, to being asked what's the budget and us pricing our stuff. So yeah, I'd say it's just a learning curve and going through the ball game. And yeah, if you have people within the industry that know this stuff, don't feel afraid to like ask and stuff. So yeah, that's how we've done it.
Moray.
Well, look, margins are difficult in our business, and this is well-trodden territory, this, but it's so heavily procured now. Anything that we do, any major contract, everyone is going to end up in the same sort of place for any established client. It gets more difficult with newer clients, of course, and with newer agencies, and some people will just buy the business. And look, we've done it before. Sometimes you make that commercial decision that the prestige of an account is worth losing money on. But that's almost, I would say, unheard of in our business now, in our company now. And we make those hard calls. We really do. If we're going to take something on, which we could probably afford to, and lose some money to do the work, we won't unless the price is right. And even if it's a social good or a charity, you know, my advice is always, don't ask us to do it for free. Really don't, because you lose control. And you need to be in control. You need to tell us what you think and what you want done. And it's difficult to do that if someone's doing you a favor. But on the whole, you know, there's the holy grail in our business is to try and get paid for the value that you create rather than the hours that you work for. And, you know, good luck with that. we haven't discovered how to do that.
Thank you both. So I have a question about just work-life balance, because I think again, I'm big on taking care of yourself, and I know I can be so much better at it. But how do you, you both run agencies. How do you take care of yourself in and among that?
Well, it's not my strong suit, I don't think. I was brought up by quite a tough. My father left school at 16 in Inverness and joined the army, and he believed in, as a private soldier, and he believed in hard work, so I always had that drummed into me as a kid in a very military sort of way, and he did quite well, so I got the privilege and benefit of that. And so no, I'm not particularly good at work-life balance. I don't have a hard and fast line between you must separate work and this is my family life, and the two will never meet. I don't really operate like that. And I always remember listening to athletes when they say, I can't remember which one it was actually. It was an athlete coming up to the Olympics saying, if I don't train on Christmas Day, my closest competitor will. So they'll win and I'll lose. And that's not a particularly healthy philosophy and outlook perhaps in life, but I definitely do have that. Someone called it an illness once. They said, you have an illness, you think there's a correlation between hard work and how well you do, and there isn't. And so I don't know the right answer. I know that people demand it and want it and need it, and it's probably good, but I'm probably not the best person to answer the question.
Thank you for the transparency.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the right person to answer that either.
Oh God, guys.
Obviously, like I said, the last time I've had like a job where I felt like I was going to a job and then having to like balance my life was when I was at Tesco. Ever since then, this is just what I've got to do in it, kind of thing. So it's just like, it's integrated into my life. But I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't feel like the need to switch off or anything. It's like, I think everything has a cause and effect relationship. Like if you work hard, I think you'll see the results. And if you're doing something and you're seeing the results of it and it's good results, why would you stop? I don't feel like I need to take a break or thingy, because I'm kind of in control of my life. So if I do feel a bit like taken back, I can take a couple hours out or something, but I don't feel like I need to have like work like this is my life, innit? So yeah, I just live it.
Thank you. So we have quite a lot of questions from the attendees. I'm just going to open some of them up. Bear with me. Okay, 1 second. So question for Moray. Oh, hold on. Okay. Question to the panel regarding speed and agility. How do you build a quick, efficient, and agile company sustainably, not overworking people or taking advantage of people?
Who's that, to us both or?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, so GWOP started with just me and my business partner, and we was doing everything. So we was able to be agile because we would just shoot, put something out, etc., etc. Now we've still got a small team. I think we've got, like I said, we've got like 6 people. We still have that ability to just get stuff done. But I think it's because we were built on just getting stuff done fast and just putting it out, if that makes sense. As we grow, it probably will get harder, because I think obviously with a lot more people in a company, there's a lot more people you have to speak to get things done. So really for me, I don't even want I don't want lots of people in GWOP. Like I want it to stay agile and lean, and I don't want all the red tape and all that kind of stuff that comes with having so many people. So yeah, I think for us to just try and build small and efficient teams, because like I said, me and Jide were able to do so much. So having a few extra members will allow us to do a lot more. So find people who provide so much value that you don't have to hire bare people to get the exact same value. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, I guess we're in a slightly different position. We're a PLC. We have governance issues. There are certain standards and policies that you need to have in place, and that makes it slightly different. I think actually the old agencies, they were exactly the opposite of what Ibrahim was talking about in his company. They were siloed and slow and methodical, and demarcation was very tight. I mean, even now, to an extent, it's still there. That question, are you a creative or a suit? I've always found that insulting, actually, as a question. You're not creative, you know, because you have a creative department. Are you a creative, or are you a suit? I don't know why we call it a suit. It is derogatory.
Yeah.
And I think breaking down those barriers and silos is one way you've got to be now to be agile. So I think it's structure. I think you need to restructure to make sure that you can be agile. I think it's the culture. I think it's structure and culture and reward. So the culture needs to be one where you encourage everyone to be creative. The structure needs to reflect that. And then the reward, to get people working together quickly. So if you do, you're rewarded. I think it's those three things. And I think our industry is still very bad at it. And I think it's something that we're going to work very hard at, actually, over the coming months to make sure we're better. And in terms of sustainability and work-life balance, which we touched on before, I think it's a competition for talent out there, and you've got to make yourself attractive, haven't you? And you've got to understand and empathize with the talent pool, which is the millennial talent pool often for us. And people do want a work-life balance, and they do want the right benefits, and they do want the flexibility in their life. And if you don't offer it, they'll go somewhere else. So it's market forces, I think.
Oh yeah, based off what you just said, yeah, going back to the work-life balance, I think it's different having work-life balance being the founder of a company or CEO of a company compared to whether you're just an employee of a company. Because I think when you are like a founder of a company, like this is your life. Like you think about this probably every single day kind of stuff, where with like, if you're working at a company, you have the ability to switch off. So I think, there's two different, when we talk about work-life balances, there's two different positions you can be seeing it from. Yeah.
I definitely agree. And even this morning, you know, I was like, I'm going to sleep in today. I was on my phone messaging like one of my team, like, oh, have you done this? Did you remember to do this? And I was like, oh, I wanted to just have this morning to myself and not think about anything, but it does sometimes feel impossible. But I thought I'd throw it out there because I know that a lot of people are now more keen on making sure that they're taking care of themselves. But
I think that's the thing. I think you can do that and still take care of yourself. That's what I'm not really understanding why it's perceived as a separation. You can work hard and still look after yourself.
Take time, yeah.
And time for yourself, kind of thing. And just because you're taking time out of yourself, it doesn't mean your work is going to be any less, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't think there needs to be this massive separation. Like everyone can be accountable for their actions, and if you feel like you need to take time out, but it doesn't have to be a massive split. Yeah,
definitely. Thank you. Right, another question. I think this is more for Moray. So Moray, re-strategy. How do you or the business approach delivering strategy to prospective clients? And B, is it something that is more or less feasible to show the value of during times of uncertainty such as COVID?
Yeah, I mean, strategy really underpins everything that we do, I would say. I would go that far. So we have our different we call them sort of verticals. So we have a media business, we have that's performance marketing, sort of programmatic type business. We have a creative business, we have a sports business, and all that. We have a business strategy communications consultancy. So we have lots of different ways of delivering. But I think underpinning that, we have our mantra, if you like, which is brutal simplicity of thought. That in life and marketing and advertising, it's easier to complicate than to simplify. But to really be effective, you need to simplify, and it's painful and difficult. And that underpins everything that we do. That process of simplification, distillation, understanding, getting rid of the rubbish. What's the core thought? What's the core idea? What's the core strategy? I think it underpins everything that we do, really. And we have lots of different tools and techniques to do that. But even if it's our performance media, our performance media business, which is very data heavy, in essence, it's finding the audience and the most valuable audience you possibly can, and putting out messages and testing and reapplying, and a sort of iterative process to finding what's really effective for the client in terms of selling things at the sharp end. But even that, really, everything comes back to an understanding of the customer. And if you get that wrong, you will go wrong. And we have on many occasions. I mean, I don't want to get too political in this, but I've worked on quite a few political campaigns. But I happened to work on the independence campaign, the Scottish independence campaign, and also Brexit. We got bought in very late on Brexit. I hasten to add, that's my little disclaimer and caveat. This was to stay in the EU. And all the thinking was wrong. And all the thinking was wrong because it didn't really understand the audience. Even at the end, and I would say we were guilty of this as well. We were putting out, it never ran. Nothing ever ran. That's a separate story about for hours. But even then, it was like everyone who is an expert, who knows about the economy, who knows about the future of this country, is saying that this will destroy jobs, will destroy careers, will destroy our society. All the experts are saying that. Obama is saying it, the Pope is saying it, everyone is saying it. And that was a complete misunderstanding of what was going on. What people were actually thinking was, no, you will do worse. You, the expert, the privileged, the rich, you will do worse. I have already done badly, and I will continue to do badly. So it was there wasn't a full understanding of what was really going on. Anyway, I'm getting slightly sidetracked on that, but I suppose all I'm really saying is understanding your audience and strategy, and deeply understanding it, not necessarily what they say, but what they're thinking, is one of the endless fascinating parts of our job, isn't it? I don't know if I answered the question there, but
you did.
Some of it.
Thank you. Another question. Sorry, I'm just reading them off the screen. One for Ibrahim. Ibrahim, did you start off as a solopreneur? And how did you begin to build your team?
No, I started business with a business partner. He made an investment group where in university, where a group of friends came together to basically invest in business ideas together. And we had a business idea before, and that was a complete flop with everyone else. But within that process, we realized me and him work well together. And then GWOP was the second idea. And what was the second part of the question again? Sorry.
How did you build your team?
How did you build a team? So building a team has been like a process. Up until March, we've had teams, but it's just been like voluntary contributors and voluntary editors. So that was a process of just people wanting to work with us, and we saw talent in certain people and was like, yeah, join the team kind of thing. But yeah, in March, we actually hired people, and that was like a whole another process. And it was literally like a lot of interviews, a lot of getting to speak to people. We had people in, and even during that period, we had to like filter some people out and hire new people. So yeah, that's a new experience for us. So far, after filtering, it's been great. But it has been like a long journey to get into this point, because some of the people we've hired were some of the voluntary contributors that were with us when we were just asking people to do it for free. So yeah, I'll say it's a process. You're not going to get the right team straight away. It's literally, you have to be able to like filter through and then get to your team of Avengers.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking about having to filter through as well, because I've had experiences where I've worked with people and it's not worked out and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But it's just part of the process.
Part of the process.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Question for Moray. So Moray, the challenges that you speak of are inevitable. New level, new devil. Do you think you would have got to where you are if you were Black, a woman, or physically challenged?
Almost impossible to answer, but I'm going to answer it. I remember I went to a dinner actually, which was it was the Women's Advertising Club of London. It was obviously female only, but they invited men for the dinner, and they had the head of MI5 there, who was, it wasn't Steele Remington, whatever her name was, but it was the other lady who was the, I think the second, maybe no, she was the first, I think the first female boss of MI5, and someone from the floor, one of the female members said, do you think it would have, exactly this question, do you think you would have got there if you'd been a man? Has your life been more difficult, and your career rather been more difficult because you're a woman? And she said it's been slightly easier. And I quite like that because it was the unexpected answer. And this, I'm not going to say it would have been easier. It's just very difficult to know. I think our industry is better on gender than it used to be. I think there are fewer women than men at the top, but it's a growing number. It really is. It's not quite 50%, but it's beginning to get there. I think on ethnicity and on the Black community, we've talked a reasonable game, but it's fairly pitiful in terms of being reflected in our senior managers in our company. They're really few and far between. And at the moment, I will if you want go on at length. It's one of those things, so to answer your question, I try and empathize, and I suppose the answer, if you look at the number of Black people at senior level, you'd have to say no. Disabled people, you'd have to say no. Women, you'd probably give yourself more of a chance just looking at the basic statistics. And I think, what we need to do is two or three different things, because whenever you can get paralyzed in these situations, not do anything, because it's too complicated, you're too fearful, or you're going to get tripped up, or someone's going to have a go at you, and you don't quite know what to say. And when I'm in any situation like that, just do something. So do something positive and good. So educate white people. Let's just on this specific Black people issue in our business. Get the culture right. Probably actually in some ways the most difficult part, I think, the most challenging is the inclusion point. Hire more people from of ethnicity, of color, through using the right headhunters who can find that talent. I mean, even last week, I had a senior person saying, you're positively discriminating for a new senior role. You still have to have those conversations with people. That's illegal. No, it's not. We're not, and it's not illegal. What we're doing is looking harder for talent in minority ethnic groups. That's what we're doing. You just have to resolve to do that, and then you need to do other things as well, such as this. So you just need to start doing stuff. So to your question, yeah, I have to say yes. It would have been much more difficult when I started. Much more difficult if I'd been a person of color, less a woman, and less able-bodied. Yeah, I suppose it would have been more difficult. And we're doing things, but like everyone's doing things, aren't they? And
I'm glad that you've highlighted that the culture and the company structure and the way you're doing things to change things or better things, because a lot of our frustration has been around companies that are saying, we're all for Black Lives Matter and we don't agree with what's happening, but we want to see things internally being done. So I'm glad that you touched on that.
And you've got to measure it, haven't you? I mean, you've got to measure it and be transparent about that. And I think that's.
Thank you. So we have another question. There's so many questions, so bear with me. I'm reading off the screen. I know you guys, one of the questions is, I know you guys said you focus on quality, but what advice would you give to someone starting out with 0 clients or 3 top tips?
Can I just reply to one of the things on here? Because there's a guy saying that the company's rotten if we still have in your company, think like that. It wasn't someone in our company who was thinking like that. It was from someone from outside the company who was thinking like that. As it. Sorry,
I didn't see that comment.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should be. I'll just put it out there. I think we should all be just positive on the outlook. That's one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And your question, what we done, again, was just us focusing on making great work. So even if you don't have clients and stuff, make sure you're doing work as if you had clients. So even when we weren't getting campaigns or whatnot, we was creating campaigns and stuff for GoUp. So creating campaign type videos that showed what we could do if we was working with a brand. So then when we started going into like agency worlds and ad world, we had stuff we could show that showed what we could do with very little. So then it made it very clear that we could do a lot with more, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd say just focus on making your work as best as it can be. And then when the time is right, you'll have a lot to show for yourself and your work will speak for itself.
Thank you. Moray, any advice to, I'm sure you'll work with a lot of new agencies and new talent, and they probably do come to you with probably no to little clients. What advice would you give to that?
What was that? I was so busy reading all the comments on the right. I was, what was the question again?
The chat is fire today. But no, I was saying, someone asked the question, like, what do you do when you're starting out with no clients? And I'm saying that I'm sure you work with talent that probably have little to no clients. So what advice or what guidance do you give to them?
Yeah, look, it's really difficult. I mean, we've started lots of businesses with no clients. If you can, we always try and, when we decide we're going to start a business with some people, we try and don't announce that we've launched until we have the client, because it does give you some momentum when you launch to say, and we're launching with a client. But most of the time we don't. And it just takes, it's back to the time point that we made before, is it takes 6 months. Often it takes 6 months to get the very first client. And just patience and self-belief. You've got to believe in yourself, haven't you? Because there'll be enough people who don't. So just keep the belief and keep the energy and confidence, because again, people buy confidence, don't they? Confidence and certainty, I think, are important in our business. And if you have that confidence and you keep your energy, you will get, and you've got the talent. Let's assume you've got the talent to do well. You will get the business, and then it's often one leads to another, and very quickly.
100%.
I'm glad you said keep the belief, because I think that's one of the hardest things when you're not seeing anything at all. So yeah, another question. Good question. How do you find talent that care almost as much about the business as you do? This is one of my struggles.
I mean, we did something to begin with, and we still do this actually, is we give people equity. So, one of our principles is ownership, because if you own something, you care more about it. So we give the people who run the businesses, all our different businesses, we give them equity in the company, real proper ownership as well, not sort of pretend equity. That still begs the question, I guess, is what about the other people? I mean, because that's just the partners in all the businesses around the world. And how do you spot the other people? Again, I don't have any magic answer to that. I suppose it goes back originally to just interview and getting those hungry people getting hungry people who really want to work hard and are talented. It's very difficult to spot. I think there's not an easy, there's no formula.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not easy. One of the things that I use to measure is what people have done for themselves, based off what they say they want to do. So like, let's say if you're if you say you want to be a music journalist, have you started your own blog? Have you been writing every single day on your blog, etc., etc.? Because it's not you coming to grow up that's going to instill that into you. You have to have that instilled, if that makes sense. So when I'm looking, I kind of like judge what people have done before, to see if they really want it. Because I have this saying of like, people say they want it, but do you like really, really want it? Because if you really want it, you'll make it happen. So if you're not already taking the steps to make it happen, then you don't really, really want it. So yeah, that's how I tend to, and in this process of like recruiting people, that's how I filtered a lot of people. So yeah, it's more about the work, the action in it, less about the talk.
But I guess it's also down to us once people arrive, isn't it? That they join a culture which is energizing and that they want to work with. And again, I know this is quite unhealthy in some ways, but I remember, you know, when we started, someone saying to me, I said, "How was your weekend?" On a Monday, and they said, "Oh, I woke up yesterday and thought, damn, I can't go to work." And you know, when you have that in your culture, that people love coming to work. So I think it's on you to an extent, isn't it, that you create somewhere that people just want to be.
Definitely.
That's a good point. It both balance, you know. Cool. Another question. What do you feel is most important, PR or marketing or customer service?
Yeah, sorry, Ibrahim, you go.
Obviously, now I'm gonna say, if you do good customer service, that would lead to good PR, I think, and stuff. So you wouldn't have to invest in PR and marketing, because if you're doing good customer service, it will do the rest. It's that whole thing of value. If you're providing as much value as you can to your customers, they will go and speak about you, and you can't buy that.
Yeah, there's a famous advertising quote, which is, you can only sell a bad product once, and because people discover that it's bad. So customer service, I would see as part of the product, and just being really good at what you do. And it's difficult to sell a bad product, as I said. So I think I'd agree. It's customer service, the quality of the product, the quality of the experience, or if it's a service, if you are selling something, is the foundation, really.
Thank you. Another question. Well, it's about working for free at the start of building your business. What do you do when you need to pay others? Sorry, this question. What do you do when you need to pay others to do work and you're out of favors? That's a good question.
What do you do when you have to pay other people but you're out of favors?
Yeah.
Can I answer this question?
Okay, go ahead, Akil.
I'm sorry, I had to come answer this question because this is a big lesson that I learned from making Saturday School. Make the pie bigger. Like, if you're here by yourself and you're sweating and the pie, and you can't do any more work, you can't get any more people in for the same, say, $5,000, but you know the work's still gonna hurt. You need to make that pie bigger. How do you make that? With that extra person, how much more value can you add to make this service now worth 10 grand, where you can now pay everybody appropriately and still have profit? A big example was when we started Saturday School, I was working with Renee. We were pulling up like £500. We were pulling up £500 a time, and I realized if I wanted to pay Renee to go out there and do a lot of work and run and chase people, I was like, that £500 ain't gonna split between us, not at all. Like, I want to get paid for teaching. For that £500 to pay my rent, whatever. And then I was like, okay, how do I make £1,000? So how do I make sure I paid myself, Renee's covered, and then there's money left over? And what we ended up starting to do is we said, okay, £500 was 15 tickets, and then £1,000 is 30 tickets. Congratulations, we need to go now make 30 tickets. And I had Renee on my side because she was my team member now. So it's not like I had to double myself. No, we had a team, our team grew. And so we just made the pie bigger. I'm sorry for jumping in, but I just thought that story was very effective to teach someone how to do that. But yeah, enjoy it. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Someone just said, Akil, I agree. Akil, you might have to come back. Someone just said, Akil, I agree, but that's a lot easier said than done if you don't have that experience or know-how. Scaling up is a skill. That's true.
It's every journey. Like if you're gonna make the step, I realized that if I was dying making that £500. Like I realized I was burnt out because the way the old model used to be, I used to ask Mario, I used to come chase everyone and ask them to buy tickets. Like, and then I used to go and chase people to go get bumps on seats for the classes. Like I was tired out, I was burnt out, I was strung out. So there was no way on earth that I was gonna go and do this. Of course, it was a challenge. Me and Renee sweated the first couple months to get 30 people. I did anyway, and I was stressing her out about it. But I sweated to get that happen. But I understood that making the step to transition towards a bigger pie was much better than me sitting here still trying to squeeze this small pie and dying from it. It just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense.
I call it learn as you grow.
Take that one.
Very good.
Yeah. Moray or Ibrahim, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think what you said is completely true.
You lot have been talking facts though. Like I've been sitting here taking notes. I've got a lot of notes. So thank you. I've had a bit of a learning session here today as well.
Me too.
You got another question. I'm gonna leave you up to it, but I just thought that was important because I don't want anyone to die thinking they can't get growth.
Thank you, Akil. We have a question for Ibrahim. Ibrahim, you mentioned youth culture is at the heart of your business. Do you approach your work more from a data-driven standpoint or more from a grassroots perspective, or both? That's a really good question.
We approach it from a grassroots perspective. That's always been our thing. So even if you go look right now, we haven't even got the maddest numbers. We haven't got the largest Instagram following. We don't like, that's not what we sell, but we have the most, we can openly say we're one of the companies that have a lot of impact in our space, offline and online, if that makes sense. And we're able to reach people based off doing it organically rather than just looking at stats and just doing stuff to get views or just doing stuff to, be seen bigger. The fact that we keep it grassroots perspective allows it to reach more people because it's more authentic. So we go on that strand rather than just doing stuff for views. We try and authenticity first, purpose first, and then it will impact and reach more people.
Thank you. Moray, do you have anything to add to that? I don't know if any of the talent that you work with are kind of doing anything along the same lines. Have you noticed any themes that have come up surrounding that?
Data or grassroots, I mean, I suppose the equivalent at the heart of our business is the sort of art and science question. And it's the big debate in our industry, and you have to do both. You have to be doing both. You absolutely need to be on the data, on the targeting, on the personalization, on the programmatic, on the various platforms that can deliver that, either through your own tech or through partnerships with Adobe or Google or however you do. You've got to be able to deliver that. But at the same time, you've got to remain, I wouldn't say that's not a creative business, because you need skill to do that and there's judgment involved. But the much more creative end of our business, which is taking leaps where through originality and imagination, you come up with something which is just a multiplier effect on a client's business, which you could never have got from data. One of the ones I liked reasonably recently was when we did PPI, actually, people to claim for the insurance mis-selling on behalf of the FCA. And we had, I don't know if anyone ever saw it, but it was a sort of severed Arnie Schwarzenegger head shouting at people. And you think, you know, why? Where did that come from? And it's those sort of creative, but it worked. And it worked really well. And so I think just those pure creative leaps are still one of the joys of the business. But you've got to be doing both, really.
Because my thing is as well, I always say this saying of like, you can buy reach, but you can't buy impact. But obviously, you need the reach kind of goes into the impact. So it's kind of, if you focus on the impact, it'll reach a lot more people. So then you can look at the data and stuff. But I wouldn't do data. I would say balance the data-driven decisions with what you know works from your feelings, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well put.
Thank you. We have time for a few more questions and then we'll have to wrap up. Thank you guys. So question to both of you. When you first began, did you have a clear vision for your business or did it develop over time?
Ibrahim, you go, because you're more authentic in this space than me.
Yeah, I think you have a clear vision based on the long term, but you're always going to have to adapt because you can't control what happens with time. So the thing you write on your paper today is definitely not going to be what's there in like 10, 20 years, because what you're making your decisions about in the future today is based on what's happening today. But in 5, 10 years, that's going to change. And if you're not able to adapt, and if you're just like, no, it has to be what's on that paper, it has to be what's on that paper, you're probably going to lose out in the long run. So yeah, I would say there's certain things that can be in the vision that remain the same, but let's say how you get there or what that looks like might change, and you might just have to adapt with it. So like when we started this magazine, I never thought that we was going to own a podcast studio or like a photography studio, but we've got that strand. I didn't even know about advertising worlds or like working with brands in this way, but we've had to do it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's good to have the long-term vision, but how you get there and what it looks like might change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I suppose our business was slightly different in that it was born out of conflict. And you know, the two brothers were kicked out, was the truth, of Saatchi and Saatchi. And I told you the story of me joining, and then suddenly you're doing this thing. In the white heat of media as well, you know, we had camera crews outside the office. We had our phones bugged actually, which they apologized for. And so it was more just a survival thing. Everyone watching you, waiting for you to fail, and survival and fighting. But quickly we did, then you do develop. So we did it as we were working. We had two principles actually, and now we have 3, and they're still, those 2, and the third is still how we operate in the business. One is brutal simplicity of thought, I talked about. The other is ownership, which I talked about, which means starting up businesses, not just buying them. And the other one is diversity of thought, that you will make better things if you have more different people from different backgrounds and skill sets working on. And those are the 3 principles that we still build they're the sort of basis of the foundations of our business.
Thank you. I'm going to ask 2 more questions because we're coming up to the time. Question for Moray. If you are producing a product or a service that is not what the market expects but has value and demand, do you feel it's best to compare it against convention or just highlight the positives of the novel approach and ignore convention?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there's either can work clearly. The good old-fashioned side-by-side is tried and tested and proved over many years. Procter & Gamble are still one of the best marketers in the world, and they love a side-by-side comparison against convention. I think clarity, I was brought up, I suppose, creatively in a school of being straightforward and clear. My product is better. I suppose Dyson did it as well to an extent, didn't they? It's better to show and tell people that it's better. This is the best car in the world. I remember Charles Saatchi actually saying, not to me, but someone who was with me, right, I'm going to write the ad, and it says the best car in the world. That's a picture of the car. You go and do me a better one. So I think being straightforward and clear, and so against convention would be my instincts, would be the best way to go, but everyone would have their own flavor on that and preference.
Thank you. We've just had a really good question pop up actually about convention. Ibrahim, how did your parents react to your career choice? Having moved back in with my West Indian parents, I'm struggling to explain my vision and career choice as I'm clearly not going to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be like totally honest and stuff. Yeah. When, to be honest, for me, it wasn't their choice. It's that simple. It was like, this is my life. This is what I'm gonna do. You don't have to be happy. I'm not gonna ask you for anything. Just allow me to do what I'm doing, and then we'll make it happen. So for me, I think just having a confidence in what you're trying to achieve and trying to do should basically get rid of any doubt. Like, I don't need to, regardless if they're my parent, my brother, my sister, I'm doing this for myself. I shouldn't have to get approval from anyone else. So for me, it was just like, this is what I'm doing, and that's it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Moray, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, being in advertising and obviously being a father, what would you advise other parents that might be saying, no, this is not a viable career to get into?
Well, you know, it's just because I've got older teenagers, and I've done quite well, and they're aware that I've done quite well. So they're in an interesting space, I think, in their heads. And one of them said the other day, I might want to be a hairdresser. How do you feel about that? And I said, I'd be absolutely fine with you being a hairdresser, as long as you're a really good one. As long as that's really what you want to do. And as long as you're really passionate, you're going to enjoy it, then that's fine. What about a plumber? I'd be fine, but the same rules apply. And I think that's just a bit of fear, perhaps, that, you know, that what they're trying to say is that I may not do as well as you. Do you have a problem with that? No, I don't. Because doing well is not about money and status. I know they may say that's easy for me to say because I've got some of that, and I suppose it is. But I think if people want to, it's about doing something that is going to make you much of the time fulfilled, isn't it? Is what I say to my teenagers.
Thank you both. So I just want to thank you both for your transparency today as well. There's a lot of questions and we're not going to get through them all, so I apologize in advance, everybody. But is there anything that the both of you would like to leave us all with going forward? You know, the lockdown has eased, everyone's going back to I don't want to call it normality, but things are going back to a different kind of normal now. So what would you like to leave everybody with today?
I think for me, I would say focus on what makes you happy and just keep going at it, like, and that happiness will turn to like your reality in some time. There may be hard times in the happiness or in the journey, but yeah, if you want this to be a long-term thing, you're gonna have to build the roots and just do it. Like, there should be no excuses, especially in the time we're in, to not make what you want happen. Like, we've got a massive knowledge, a massive wealth. There's loads of opportunities around the place. Yeah, it's not meant to be easy, but once you do hit that tipping point, you'll be fine. So yeah, just go for it.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
Yeah, I think perhaps I'd say what I've found just personally in the last 4 months is that it's relentless. It is relentless, this looking at this thing. And it's quite draining as well. You have good days and bad days, and you have energized days and not. And I think I would say, given all of that, that it is difficult, and it for all the obvious reasons, and we'll all be going through different stuff, but find people who can energize and inspire you, because you're going to have some bad days, and hang out with the people more often who energize and inspire you, because you're going to need the energy from that.
I love that. Thank you.
That's a good one. That's a very good one.
That's a very good one, because I've had many moments. Akil will tell you I've had many moments, and I'm like, Akil, help me. So it is helpful to have people that can do that for you.
I've had to cut out people who drain that energy from you, and like not be around people like that. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, boundaries, that's the word. That's been a big word for me this 4 months. So thank you. Thank you also everybody for being in the chat and sharing resources with each other. Someone's created some notes from today, and they've put the link to the Google Drive in the chat. Someone has asked, Moray and Ibrahim, how do we get in touch with you both?
What's the best way? Email? You can email me.
Yeah, or Instagram for me is my name _ or Twitter.
Moray M&C Saatchi.com.
Moray
MORAYM at MCSaatchi.com.
Thank you. Akil, can you put that in the chat for everybody, please? Oh, perfect. You already did. Thank you so much, everyone. We are finished right on time, which is amazing because I like to be on time. And please do connect with Ibrahim and Moray. I'm sure they'll be willing to answer questions that you may have. Just give them a bit of time, because I know they're very busy. And Akil, is there anything you want to add before we close out?
Akil's gone.
He said no, thanks. Okay, thank you guys. And yeah, have a good afternoon. Ibrahim, sorry, did you say something?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. I've enjoyed.
Thank you.